Hi, it's Molly. Welcome to my mod. This is Modcast, the show where I highlight current and past eeks who make waves on and off the heights. Come on in. Today, I have a very special episode as my guests will be joining me virtually from San Francisco. Ashley Adamson is an Emmy-winning host and former reporter for the Pac-12 Network. Recognized as game-changing talent by Synopsis Media, her 17-year career allowed her to cover events such as the Super Bowl, Rose Bowl, Final Four, and NBA playoffs. Beyond her on-air role, Ashley has worked as an adjunct professor as well as a communications strategist. A Denver native, she not only holds a degree from Boston College, but Boston University as well, and now works with a Big Ten network. Additionally, she co-hosts the Your Mom podcast from her home in San Francisco, telling stories about her 2 children and her husband. If you're not already a fan of her, you're about to be, and I'm very pleased to welcome Ashley Adamson.
First of all, Molly, I just want to say, thank you so much for having me. I feel very honored to be a guest on this Modcast, and also, as I've told you, a little bit jealous that I never thought to do this or had the wherewithal to do it or the ability to do it when I was your age. So good on you.
I'm sad you can't be joining physically as an ex-mod resident yourself, but I heard you came back to campus recently for your 20-year reunion. How was that?
The 20th reunion this summer was awesome. God, I feel so old saying that. I never thought, we used to joke when we were seniors, oh, I'll see you at the 5-year, which felt so far away. And then this summer we're at the 20th year, but it was amazing. It was almost all of my roommates were able to come. Boston was showing off. It was a perfect weekend in June. We went to a Red Sox game and walked around campus, which is very different than it looked when I was there. The mods, thank God, still look exactly the same, but everything else has really been elevated. So shout out to all the construction going on at BC. It looks amazing out there.
Yeah. So you were in 2A, correct?
I was in 2A.
Okay.
That is
did
correct.
You guys go back? Did you get to go see? Did it look the same?
We took all the pictures in front of 2A that one does. And you'll do the same thing when you go back, when you revisit. And it's amazing because, again, I think that's why the mods, I'm sure everybody knows this, but the mods were supposed to be temporary housing in the 70s.
Yeah.
But there's no way, BC, it would be a complete and utter alumni retaliation protest if they ever tried to get rid of them. They have tried to get rid of them, and they've gotten rid of a few over the years. But that's the beauty of it. You go back and you're this is exactly the same as I remember.
Literally.
I'm looking at your background right now and I'm just yours is a lot nicer than we kept ours.
It's all for show. It's all for show today. Do you have any
smaller? It was pretty bad, but
yeah, it's okay. They're supposed to be like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you have any favorite mod memory? Any fun stories from your time living here?
The memory that comes up is that first day back on campus senior year, walking into the mod and seeing all of my friends. I think I was the last one to get there. And it was just euphoria. It was we've got our whole senior year ahead of us. I can't believe we're living in a freaking mod. This is amazing. And just, it was one of those moments in time that you are in right now that you're that it is such a special moment in time.
Yeah.
And you're trying to enjoy it and hold on to it and not be too nostalgic in the moment, but it's hard because it is really special. You'll never recreate it. But yeah, I have just so many fun memories of being there.
Were you running around to all the neighbors and
yes, and seeing who and there were a lot of people who we didn't know. Again, we came from Newton, which was kind of the Newton people stuck together, and then we all went abroad, so we hadn't seen people in a long time, and it was wait, you guys are right there, and you guys are over there, and it's the best. It was
literally the best.
Is the best.
And it's so the most ironic part about it is everyone's looks identical, but then you're let me see inside.
Let me go check out yours. I know. They are so they're all equally beautiful in their own right.
So out of those 5 other people you lived with, or just anyone in general, do you have one standout person at BC who just made your experience?
I mean, I could go and talk about my roommates this entire hour and a half, right? I could go one by one, and I will say my sister-in-law.
That's right.
Roommates, yes. So I have a very special connection to one of my roommates. Shout out to you, Kate Vitt. Yeah, no, the people and the friends, and that's what it's all about. The people that you meet when you're at BC and just all the different relationships that you get to create. I will say, I think one of my bigger regrets was that I didn't form some of the relationships. Like I had a couple professors that I really liked, but I, as I look back on my time and what I would have done, could have done differently, I think being able to tap into some of the incredible professors that are there and the people on the staff and the faculty, like that was in some ways definitely a miss. There was one professor who really helped me on the trajectory that I'm in now, which is sports broadcasting, Christine Caswell.
Yes.
She taught a communications course. You know her, right? And
yes, she's awesome.
And I just remember it was writing for broadcast, I think was the name of the class. And it was her first or second year teaching it maybe. But I have this specific memory of her. The class was amazing. I learned so much. She would show clips of like her being on the air and doing some different things. And I just really learned a lot. But I remember she was a young mom. And she always said that her son at the time, I think, knew, there was a story that she told that he always knew whether or not it was like mom was going to stay at home because she was in her like BC sweats, or mom was going to work, because it was a night class and she was in her like professor, outfit.
Oh my gosh. That's
and
awesome.
I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is kind of the dream. Like you did it. You have this career that was really big time, and now you're a mom and you're teaching. And I was really inspired by her, and I've stayed in touch with her intermittently over the years, and she totally like created the vision for what I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes like one professor or mentor or person like that where you like you can't even envision yourself in those shoes until they bring it up and you're like, I might be capable of doing this. And it's like,
you have to see it.
Awesome.
You have to see it. Who's that person that comes to mind for you? Like who's been formative?
One of my like mentors, I would say here, a girl who had the same internship as me, but is 2 years older. She went similar to you, the BC to BU track. And I was an environmental studies major at the time when I got the internship. I was just like in need of a side hustle. Like I was just, I need money and there's an opening and I'm going to go do this. And the like reason I'm doing this is because I had that internship and she was the one throwing me in front of the camera on the quad with a mic and was like, talk to people, come on, go. Like, and like, so pushed me out of my comfort zone, like older sister.
You hit on something that is something I think about all the time, which is we should have friends of all ages, right? Yeah. Like you want people who are younger than you as you get older. You want people, of course, who are your peer group. But I also think, I have some older friends and much older friends. There's Jane, who's 92, who is a dear friend of mine, who is my late grandmother's friend, who I still see and visit with. Like they just, and the wisdom of girlfriends, right? Like they all have these different things that they bring from different points in their life. So I do think the relationships that you create, and they start really, when you're younger, but college is when you start to really create those relationships that are going to last you forever. And the one thing I will say, and I was just talking about this on another show I was doing, but I think this is really real. What I didn't realize early on is that, you think a lot about your mentors or the people who help lift you up to where you want to get to in your career. But I will say, like, truly invest in your peers and those relationships, because as you grow older, I am now in my early 40s, and like the people who have all the big time jobs and are doing the thing and have the connections, like they're my friends. Yeah. And it's just really cool to see how it evolves. And for so long, you're kind of reaching up. But what is really important is that you think about and stay in touch with and remember and invest in the relationships that you have that are your peer group right now, because the people who you're going to BC with right now, who are going to be graduating with you, like they're going to go on to do some really cool stuff. And so just tap into those relationships and keep them watered.
I appreciate that advice a lot. Going back to what you said, just like the wide age range of friendships, like I would literally consider one of my closest friends the girl I've babysat for like over a decade. She like has not even like got to middle school. She is like the funniest, most like thoughtful, kind girl ever. And it's so cool because I've been building this relationship with her for so long. Like it went from like girl I'm in charge of to like girl I go to for advice, who I FaceTime and gossip with. And it's just like, she's the sweetest ever. She's frankly the reason that I want to have kids, because like the way I think about it is, if I could proudly say that I've even contributed like 1% to the growth that she's like made so far in life, like the woman that she's going to become, I think that is the most beautiful, cool thing. And like to be able to like do that on my own one day, just like Oh, like, it makes me so
What's her name?
excited.
What's her name?
Harley.
Harley. Okay,
Mhm.
so here's what I'll say. For all that Harley is giving you, and I appreciate that perspective so much because I think as adults, we look at kids as like we're pouring into them and we're teaching them but if we're paying attention, and I have a 7 and 5-year-old, kids will teach us way more than we will ever teach them on some level. If you actually are listening and paying attention and being open to it. So I love that relationship. I think that is so sweet. But for all you are giving her, like she is, you are, I am sure without even knowing her, like number one. There is something when someone takes an invested interest in you and then that relationship like grows from someone who you saw as like an adult authority figure to more of a friend. I think, what you're doing for her is beyond special. So I love that.
So speaking of motherhood, we need to talk about your podcast because obviously you're on mine right now. Your
Mm.
mom has this very like fun, unfiltered vibe. How do you and your co-host Lisa strike a balance between like the more humorous side and that, like the deeper emotional aspects of motherhood?
It's a great question. And just for some background for some people who are not familiar with the podcast, I do a podcast with Christian McCaffrey's mom. So the all pro running back for the Niners. His mom is Lisa, who I met when I was covering Christian when he was at Stanford. And Lisa, I mean, the truest answer to that is that like Lisa is the most amazing, unfiltered, hilarious. Like if you've listened to one single episode, you understand exactly. I mean, she's got the personality that is incredible. And she says stuff that I'm like, oh man, I don't know if we can say that on the air. Like there's a lot that gets left on the cutting room floor. You'd be amazed at what gets left in. But
Yeah.
that's why I love her. And I remember Ed McCaffrey, her husband, who was was my favorite Bronco growing up, him saying to me, like the best part about Lisa is that she just makes everyone around her comfortable because there's not a single air. Like she's not trying to be, she is who she is. And it kind of puts everyone else at ease in the way that she is. And I have found that to be true. So it has been a total joy and a ton of work, as you know, which is why I also, again, just so many kudos to you for starting this thing, because I think people, like everyone has a podcast, right? Like people think it's easy. It is so much work to actually pour into something that you don't know. You're not doing it. I always tell people like, don't start a podcast because you want to make money, because that's not usually
No.
it may come in many years, but you're
Yes.
not making money on a podcast. You are always mostly losing time and energy and money on podcasts. But what it does, the cup that it fills, it has been one of the most rewarding things I've done in my professional career because of the relationships that you get to create. Because like you and I are doing right now, there's no other world in which we're having this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like we connected on the phone and had a great call, but this is a different type of conversation than that. So I admire you for doing it when you have
Thank
1,000
you.
other things that you could be doing.
How were your teenage years with your
Yeah.
mom?
I was not the best. Like I will own that I was kind of one of those teenage daughters that, as my mom said to me when I was a teenager, like, I hope you have a daughter exactly like you one day. So you
Yep.
understand what this
I've heard that.
experience is
I've heard
yeah.
that. I'm scared.
And I was just like, yeah, because she's going to be awesome. And we're going to like drink wine together. And I can't wait to have a daughter just like me because she'll be rad.
Yeah.
But I do understand what she was saying because I did not make it easy on them. And I broke, pushed all the rules and did all the things. But I think that in the end, my mom is like, she's fun. Like she's had her things and she's been through a lot, but she is funny. She's witty. And she has a way of like making sure that the holidays were really special and that she's just intentional about a lot of stuff. And it was always done in her own, Anne way, but she and I have a really good relationship. And I would say now we have a better relationship than we ever have. And it's not lost on me that our relationship got a lot better after I started a podcast on motherhood because it made me look at motherhood through a different lens.
That's so special.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there anything she like taught you specifically that you're trying to bring into your relationship with your daughter?
Great. Oh man, these questions are so good. I think that it was what she showed me, like I've told her this too. She showed me from a very young age what it looked like to be a fiercely independent working mom.
Yeah.
And that you can do it and you don't need anybody else. Like you can do it. And she did it. And I give her so much credit. She made a lot of hard decisions. She did so much. I mean, when my husband is out of town, which he is right now, and he was sick all of last week. So I feel like, when I've been home the last 2 weeks, I've been solo parenting. And I always text her and I'm like, Mom, no wonder you were crazy. Like we must have driven you insane. Like it is so hard to do on your own. But she showed me that like you can do it. And so I think there was innately in me growing up this sort of fierce independence and understanding that like it's not up to anybody else how your life turns out. Like you get to sort of decide. And I think that served me well in a lot of, I don't know that we want to go down this path, but just like a lot of relationships early on
Yeah.
and finding my way and understanding, in the path of broadcasting when you're moving all around all over the place in your 20s, that like just keep going and that you are all you need. And I think that she taught me that. And I hope that my daughter, Cora, who already I can tell is fiercely independent and is going to give me, she is my mother's wish come true. She is me, but like on steroids. But I want her to know that like, I felt so much growing up that like I was either a good kid or a bad kid. And we put ourselves in these like boxes. And I'm like, it's all of those things are true. You do things that are not great that you regret. You also are a good human at your core and like you are going to mess up and that's okay.
So I know you've talked about your mom, but I would love to hear more about your dad. I read your farewell letter from Pac-12 and you talked about how he, taught you the sad lesson that is goodbye and how to deal with goodbyes. I would love to hear more about that.
That was a piece that I wrote when the Pac-12 Network came to an end in this past summer. And I just really felt like I wanted to, not just move on to the next thing without really sitting down and reflecting on what that time had meant. And that piece was a labor of love. And I committed to writing it for John Canzano because I knew that if I didn't commit to writing it for somebody that I would never write it. But the way that I opened that piece and what you're alluding to is, so my dad lived in Denver when, from when I was age 2 to 13, I lived in Michigan with my mom and my older brother, and my dad and my bonus mom and my younger brother and sister lived in Denver. And my dad would come visit us, on the weekends as often as he could. And we were there for much of the summer. But it was always really sad saying goodbye, like it was that those are some of like the sadder memories that I have as a kid is just him dropping us off on Sunday night. How lucky are we that this feels as sad as it is? Because if you weren't sad, it wouldn't have meant anything. And so when you have a goodbye that you feel, and I think about, I'm just looking at you right now in your mod, like BC, hardest goodbye, one of the hardest goodbyes that I ever made. And like, how lucky were you to feel that way about a school? Because there's a lot of people who go to college who don't feel like we got to feel about the place that they went to school. And so goodbyes are hard, but it tells you that they meant something. So yeah, my dad, and I could go on and on and on about the impact that he's had on my life. And the reason that I got into this line of work was because he believed in me. I think it's so powerful when a parent can believe in you before you believe in yourself. He saw things that I didn't see even as a young person. Like he would always tell me like, Ashley, you're so tough. And I'd be like, I don't feel tough. Like I do not feel tough. But he had this way of like showing me like, look at what you did here. Or like, look at what you decided or what. And I just felt like he believed in the version of me that before that version was actually real, like he saw it. And so he's had a huge, huge impact on my life. And, he is a great storyteller. He is a great writer. He is the reason why, I fell in love with sports. My mom is also a huge sports nut. But he went to Notre Dame and he would take me to Notre Dame games growing up. And I fell in love with that was when I fell in love with sports, was like going to Notre Dame football games. And I will say shout out to him because when it came time for me to decide where to go to school, I grew up like drinking the Notre Dame Kool-Aid, right? Like that was what I knew. I had never even been to BC until my senior year of high school. And I got into Notre Dame. My older brother, who I'm very close with, was a junior there at the time. And like everyone just assumed, like if you got into Notre Dame, of course that was where you were going to go. You've been dreaming about it as a little girl. And I remember I woke up every morning, like after I got into BC and Notre Dame, I woke up every morning with just this like anxiety of I didn't know what to do. And I think people were sort of surprised, like, why haven't you sent in your acceptance letter? And finally, and I give him all the credit in the world because never once did he give me his opinion on what he thinks I should do. And I remember he sat me down one time and he was like, Ashley, the only bad decision that you could possibly make is no decision. Because if we don't FedEx one of these letters in tonight, like you're not going to go to either place. Like that's the only bad decision here. Yeah. And you're going to love wherever you go and you're not going to have imagined that you could have gone to the other place. So like figure out what is important. And I don't know what it was. There was just something inside of me. Maybe I wanted to do my own thing. Maybe I don't know. I mean, Boston, when I visited, I walked on campus and I'm like, this is the place. But when I graduated, he just was like, you picked the right spot. Like, this is exactly the right place for you. So yeah, I feel very lucky that whatever little voice in my 18-year-old brain was telling me to go to Boston, I'm glad I listened to it.
You said before, but like graduation is fast approaching for me.
Mm.
Do you have a piece of advice as it gets closer? It's November by the time this is up.
So much advice. My biggest thing though is just, and you're doing it, like enjoy every moment and don't let your brain, it is so hard because your brain is of course going to what is the next thing. Yes, plan. And I wish I had done a better job of like setting myself up for like knowing what the next thing was. Cause part of, I think my issue with graduating was that I did not really have a sense of what I was going to do. I did put all my eggs in a basket that didn't come to fruition with the job in New York. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm a hostess at a restaurant and I'm like picking up a couple shifts at Perfect Hand to like make ends meet. And like this wasn't, this was not what I envisioned a BC degree being. So I think that was part of my like true sadness or like fear of graduating. But I say that. And I also say like, you have time, like I think we live in this world and everyone who goes to BC is very ambitious and very talented and very smart and could do anything. And I would just say to everyone, and what I wish someone had said to me is like, take a breath and know that like the path is long and whatever you're going to be doing right when you graduate probably won't have much to do with what you're doing in 20 years. And if it does, great, but it doesn't have to be. So soak up every moment, know that like all of a sudden it's set up so wrong because, and there, it has to be this, right? Like there has to be some point when you just are released to the world and go figure it out. But everything is so structured your entire life and you kind of are building one thing to the next. And then it's just like you get a piece of paper one day and you're supposed to be a fully functioning adult that knows how to like operate and what to do. And there's those early years were really stressful. Like those were probably some of the hardest years looking back on my life was the year after BC because I just was lost and I had always known what was next. I had always known what I was working towards. And all of a sudden I was like floundering. So give yourself some grace and know that you don't need to have it all figured out the moment that you graduate and just as much as you can, just like enjoy every minute and get off, stay off your phones and tell your friends to stay off their phones, like seriously. Just with each other.
Yeah. What I've been trying to preach to the girls at ITA is not to live for the weekend because I feel like some of my best memories here have been like the random things during the week and you can't get to Monday just trying to get to Thursday or Friday because the majority of your time here is that rest of the week. So like just being so meaningful about like what you're planning too is so important.
I love that. And I think that's like for life too, right? Like there's so much of us that operate like I just got to get through the work week to like have my life. And it's like, no, guess what? Your life is work. So you better do something you enjoy and make sure that you're like finding joy and meaning in that because you spend a lot of your time doing it. And if we're constantly like resetting the goalpost to, I'll be able to be happy when I can do this. Like things will feel good when I'm able to like the reality is, and I can tell you, like, it doesn't all come together. Like there's always, it's like this balancing act of, do you feel aligned? Like, are you doing the things that are important and meaningful and aligned with your values? And are you enjoying your life? And it's easy to constantly feel like you're going to allow yourself to enjoy your life once you've gotten X, Y, or Z crossed off your list or you're making a certain amount of money. But it's like, this is like not a dress rehearsal. Like enjoy all of those Tuesday afternoons going to Eagle's Nest. Like that's the good stuff.
I have rapid fire questions for you if you're ready.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay. Best day at BC.
Probably Marathon Monday, my sophomore year. Like I also had a great Marathon Monday my senior year. I was abroad junior year, but like I think I was such a nostalgic mess during my senior year that I was like holding on to every single moment. But like sophomore year, it was Marathon Monday is always one of the best days of the year.
That is my favorite to date. Yeah. My sophomore year Marathon Monday. Okay. Favorite spot on campus?
Honestly, like the spot that comes to mind, there is on one of the top floors of the O'Neill Library, there's one that's like against the window that you could look out on the plaza.
Yes.
And I just remember I have like such a specific memory of just doing work up there one day and like staring out the window and being like, man, this is like, life is good. Like, I'm really lucky. This is special. Like, I'm in college. This is what it is.
It's like picking your head up from like the notebook or the textbook. And then I like look at that view and I'm like, oh, the world is so much bigger than me. Let me just appreciate where I am right now and how lucky I am. I know the exact feeling. If you can learn any new skill, just like instantly, what would you learn?
Playing the guitar.
The best lesson motherhood has taught you?
To slow down. And to slow down, and that life is about these precious moments. It's not the big stuff. It's like these small, precious moments, and pay attention to them. Are you familiar with the term glimmer?
Mm-mm.
Like, it's the opposite of the word trigger. So when you are triggered by something, but like a glimmer is when there's like a moment happening and you're like, oh my gosh, this is special, and it's small, but like notice the glimmers.
Yes. And I feel like that happens when I'm in a group of people and I just get to watch them all continue interacting. And then I have one of those moments where I'm like, oh my God, this is so special. I'm so lucky. Okay. Best concert you've ever been to?
Bruce Springsteen.
And lastly, go-to karaoke song.
Right now, I'd say Lionel Richie, All Night Long, is always a crowd pleaser. Like, I will say that hits every time. But a sleeper that I'm just going to throw out there, and feel free to go try it. Stay by Lisa Loeb.
Okay, well, that's all the rapid fire, and that's all the questions I had for you today. This was so fun. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time, not only to speak with me that first phone call we had, like just to take the time to say like, I'm actually so interested in what you're doing. Can I come on? Like, do you want me to be a guest? Like that.
You couldn't say no. You couldn't.
Are you serious? I was like, oh, I didn't even have to ask. This is great.
No, and I know that I've said it, but I will thank you for having me on. And just, I got off the phone with you and I texted you the other day, this exact thing, but like, I'm totally energized by what you were doing. The little that I know you, like the way that you look at the world is really special. And this is the perfect example of like the BC community is real. And there's just a special bond that you have with someone who went to BC that like you can't kind of explain. It's a great connective tissue. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yes.
And I'm obviously always here if you need anything. Keep me posted, and go Eagles.
Yes, go Eagles. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching Modcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.